Alright guys, so Argentina is having a moment of repentance. For many months now, Milei has been distancing the country from China. The first was rejecting the BRICS invitation. He rejected the bloc saying there was no value there. Milei has also mentioned that he doesn't want to work with China. He wants to work with the democratic world, and that of course means the US and the West. But here's the hilarious part. Milei's officials are heading to Beijing for economic rescue. Argentina's central bank chief and the Foreign Minister Mondino are heading to China to seek help. And yes, it's regarding the economic lifeline, the 18 billion currency swap line with China. It's important because Argentina is still in a big financial crisis. That's why Mondino met with the Chinese ambassador here. Milei wants to dollarize Argentina. He wants to bring in foreign investment and grow the economy. To do that, he can't afford to cut away China. Decoupling simply isn't possible. The biggest problem Argentina faces today is still inflation. People's buying power is evaporating and there aren't enough US dollars circulating in the economy. Argentina's monthly inflation might have slowed down, but is still a clear and present danger. Their March inflation came in at 11% a month. Prices still rose by double digits in a single month, twice the national average. At 11%, within 6 months, prices double. And that means a loaf of bread that costs $5 will hit $10 half a year later. And if that's not a national emergency, I don't know what is. By August, inflation is estimated to hit an insane 321%, and there's no guarantee it will come down. The dollar's getting stronger, plus energy prices aren't coming down fast enough. The issue now is social stability. When your currency keeps dropping, people are pushed to the brink. And if we look at the numbers, it's truly disastrous. Poverty in Argentina has reached 57.4% in 2024. So 6 out of 10 people are living in poverty. Even Milei has admitted to this, and his shock therapy will make things worse, at least in the short term. Milei is facing two horrible crises at the same time. Now, the US dollar shortage is just a symptom. If we break things down, Argentina is spending too much and they aren't earning enough from the world. Their exports aren't growing fast enough. And just like your personal budget, saving money is always easier than trying to earn more money. And this is where Milei went all the way, pedal to the metal. Just last month, he boasted of spending cuts literally everywhere, and it's massive. Public works were frozen, funding to provincial governments was cut, and 200,000 social welfare programs were terminated. It's basically demand destruction. Cut away the supply of money, and people are too broke to spend. Now, that's all well and good. Cutting spending is great, but you must increase government earnings as well. And that's Argentina's biggest challenge. They are struggling to boost exports to the world. If we look at Argentina's balance of trade, it's starting to show signs of life. There have been budget surpluses for 4 months in a row. It even reached over 2 billion in March, and on the surface, this looks good. However, the surplus is coming more from demand destruction than export growth. In the first quarter of this year, their exports grew by only 9%. However, their imports fell by over 24%. This isn't good for the economy, especially when there are a ton of layoffs. People now have to compete for a small pool of goods coming into the country. But this struggle is going to get harder. An outbreak of leafhopper swarms is threatening Argentina's crops and economic recovery. And this just came after recovering from the drought. Corn growers are suffering big losses in their crop yield. And the disaster isn't over yet. Argentina is the third biggest exporter of corn to the world, so a hit here will be substantial. This export is vital for Milei to stockpile the reserve currency. And these are dollars needed to pay back bondholders to prevent Argentina from defaulting yet again. Because of this outbreak, corn exports are going to tumble. The original forecast was nearly 57 million tons of production, but because of the infestation, output could collapse by 12% or more. Production is estimated to fall to 49.5 million tons for the year. But that's just a conservative estimate. In many acres of farmland, yields are expected to plunge by at least 30%. Obviously, exports will be hit, but the biggest blow will be to the farmers. Margins for farming, especially in Argentina, are notoriously low. Export taxes are already at 12%, and just to export the produce, farmers need to pay an incredibly high tariff to the government. And with this insect outbreak, farms are going to lose a lot of money. In the fertile province of Cordoba, production is 26% lower than last month, and the cash losses have exceeded $1 billion. And this is a very serious issue. If farmers keep losing money operating their farms, this could force them to shut everything down. That will cause Argentina to lose export volume when they are surrounded by countries that are agricultural giants as well. Brazil is one very good example. Unlike Milei, Lady Luck is smiling at Lula. Brazil's corn production will rise by 6% in 2024, so whatever market share Argentina loses, it will be filled by Brazil. Other producers like the US and China are also growing production. This is bad news for Argentine exports. Their biggest exports are corn and soybean, and all these are weather dependent commodities, and it's impossible to control the weather to control the harvest. It's very different from mining metals or oil production. And that's why Argentina needs China. On the export front, Beijing is a huge importer of corn. China produces their own corn, harvesting over 280 million tons last year, but their consumption, their appetite is voracious. As you can see from the red line, their overall imports are starting to rise. As the middle class in China grows, so does the demand for food. Around 8% of Chinese demand is met with food brought into China, and this dependence on imports will only grow. And this represents a huge market for Argentina. It's a market currently dominated by Brazilian and US suppliers to China. And that's why a large Argentine delegation is heading to Beijing. It's all about trade, it's all about rescuing their economy. We must understand how important China is to Argentina, especially the swap line from Beijing. Milei can't control the weather, so there's no direct way to boost exports to the world. But imports still have to come in, and he doesn't want to pay in US dollars. Argentina has an urgent mission to renew at least $5 billion from the swap line, and Milei has to renew it or they'll face a very big crisis. Now, swap line is simple. Argentina gets to exchange their pesos, which is inflating away, for the Chinese yuan, a more stable currency. They can then use the yuan to buy imports from Beijing because obviously China accepts their own currency. Over the past 12 months, the yuan has appreciated by 280% against the peso. In other words, the peso collapsed against the yuan. So China gave a more valuable currency to Argentina in exchange for pesos that are inflating away like crazy. And I call it the yuan for toilet paper deal. But because it's a swap, Argentina needs to return the yuan to China, and this is coming as soon as June or July. But just like dollars, where is Milei going to get the cash from? The yuan is nearly 300% stronger versus the peso today. He will have to devalue his currency even more to pay back Beijing. And that's why Argentina needs China to extend the swap line to delay the repayment of the yuan. It's just like you heading to the bank asking for extension on your loan, and that's how dire the situation is. According to analysts, even with China's currency swap, a peso plunge and hyperinflation are risks. Without it, they are close to a certainty. And this is where the rubber meets the road, where Milei needs to face economic reality. He still needs the help of Beijing. And a big shout out to our sponsor today, IPM Bullion. When it comes to buying precious metals, my number one dealer in Singapore is IPM. Now, I've been stacking gold for over a decade and I've learned two things when buying. You want to buy authentic gold bullion, and you want to buy at the lowest premium possible to stretch your dollars further. And I'm glad to say that I found both of these at IPM Bullion. There's lots of uncertainty in the world today. We have geopolitical chaos and the value of currencies getting debased. And that's why I consistently buy some gold every single month to preserve my buying power. IPM Bullion is a leading retailer in Singapore, and they specialize in physical gold, silver, and platinum. They are my one-stop shop when it comes to buying bullion. Their prices are sharp and they have the best brands on sale, and best of all, I can test the gold on the spot. So if you're looking to make your first gold purchase, IPM is the best place to start. Whether it's 1 ounce or 1 kilo, IPM is the reputable dealer you are looking for. So take action today. Click on the link below and enjoy a discount for your first purchase with the discount code SeanFu. Start your gold stacking journey today. China's the fourth biggest buyer of Argentine products. They come in at 7.9%, just below the US, EU, and Brazil. But when it comes to imports, it's a whole different story. China accounts for nearly 20% of the total imports flowing into Argentina. And these are vital inputs to the Argentine economy. And this includes computers, electronics, and chemicals needed to make fertilizers. They aren't bringing in luxury cars or vintage wine. Beijing's providing the equipment and the inputs needed to run the Argentine economy. And if you didn't know, Milei loves to burn bridges. He's trading insults with Brazil, calling President Lula a communist many times. And Brazil is Argentina's biggest trading partner. It's very counterproductive. Brazil has had enough and they are even demanding Milei's apology. So it's not just the economy that's in trouble, but diplomacy as well. Milei just can't afford to cut China away. He needs all the Chinese imports. And if we look at the numbers, it's really staggering. Argentina has a trade deficit of $9.2 billion with China. In other words, they are importing over 9 billion more from China than they export out. In 2023, their total imports came in at $14.5 billion worth. And let's just focus on this headline figure. Because these are imports from China, Milei now has a choice. He can either pay for the imports in dollars or use the Chinese yuan to bring in the goods. Paying in yuan now is the smarter choice. Argentina has a shortage of dollars. The only way to get more is to earn it through their exports. And that takes time. And what do we have? Argentina facing a farming crisis today. And that's why China's swap line, their lifeline, is so vital. It allows Argentina to get the Chinese currency instantly and buy the imports needed. And considering China exports deflation today, buying from Beijing means paying less for more. And let's recall Milei's fantasy. He wants to dollarize the entire economy. He wants to tear down the central bank and replace the peso with the US dollar. But to do that, he needs a surplus of the reserve currency circulating around Argentina. He can't afford a massive outflow of dollars for his imports, and that's why he can't let go of China's swap line. I'm sure he can't stand it, but this is financial reality. For Argentina to dollarize their economy and break away from China, Milei needs the help of China. It's crazy, but it's true. China's biggest swap line is with Argentina. Compared with other countries like Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey, Argentina has a $20 billion facility with China. And that's enough to cover the entire yearly imports from China without using a single dollar. That's how important the swap line is. It helps Milei to preserve precious dollars to circulate around his economy. You can even use the yuan to pay back the IMF loan. They did it back last year when their dollar reserves were drying up. So this is a lifeline thrown to Argentina. Without this, Milei can't amass enough dollars to make his dream come true. He needs the swap line from China. There are a lot of bizarre things happening in the country. Milei just sealed the deal for US fighter jets. Argentina will spend $300 million to buy 24 F-16 jets from Denmark. So it's cutting away subsidies and jobs to buy fighter jets. It seems very bizarre to me, I just can't comprehend it. And here's the juicy part. To help with the purchase of the jets, the US is giving Argentina $40 million in foreign military financing. Now, I'm not sure if this is a gift or a loan, but one thing's for sure, Argentina is moving closer and closer to the West. But let's end this with inflation. It's still the biggest problem facing Argentina. To dollarize the economy, Milei has to devalue the peso more. He must create a unified exchange rate for the country. Subsidies are going to end in 3 years and dollarization is still the end goal. So he's in a time crisis to solve the inflation crisis. But in the short term, it will likely get worse before it gets better. The official exchange rate is 850 pesos to the dollar, and that's the line in red. But the blue chip or the black market rate is well above 1,000 pesos to the dollar. There's still a 23% gap between the government rate and what's happening on Main Street. Sooner or later, this gap has to close to dollarize the country, which means another round of currency devaluation is coming. People's purchasing power will get hammered once again. It's a big reason why Milei's delegation is heading to China. If the swap line gets cancelled, he will have to pay back a huge amount of yuan to Beijing. Financing imports outside of the dollar will get more difficult, if not impossible. And to boost exports at will, Milei needs the power to control the weather and influence insects. So it's not exactly the best conditions for Argentina today. Javier Milei will need to pull on all levers to save the economy. He might not like China, but he has no choice. The song and dance must continue. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Will China help Argentina out again? And is Milei doing a good job of saving his country? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through these crazy times.